doing Duolingo at the moment, don't have time for anything extra at this time. I get messages like this all the time from people who really what it comes down to is this feeling of not having enough time to do as much language learning as they'd like. But there's always that little asterisk. There's always that, I'm doing Duolingo. I'm managing to do Duolingo. I've got my Duolingo streak. So why is it that when you have no time for the language learning that you want to do, why does Duolingo seem to be the only thing that can stick? Okay, we're going to talk about it. And in fact, we're going to talk about microlearning as a whole. But before we get into it, if you want your own easy source of microlearning, then you should definitely consider joining Promptly. The link is in the description. It is in above my head. Every single week you get a brand new writing and speaking prompt. You get suggestions for how to use that at different levels, including a video walkthrough of those suggestions as well. Right. Have a look if you're interested. We'll talk more about it at the end. But for now, let's get into it. Now, I've discussed Duolingo before, and as much as it is cool to hate on Duolingo or to be like, I learned a language on Duolingo for 6 months and I still can't speak Spanish, ha ha ha. It's whatever. It's actually a really good language learning tool because it is microlearning. And microlearning is one of the biggest trends in education right now. So it's something that clearly works, it's something that is flexible, and it's something that is quite typically fun. Functional, flexible, and fun, the three things that all language learning should be. So microlearning is a win. And besides, I'm not here to take down Duolingo because this isn't really about Duolingo. The thing that this is about is why you don't feel that you have time for anything else and what you can do when that is the case. So whether it's Duolingo or another language app or a different language habit, chances are that the one thing they all have in common is that it's easy to fit in. And when language learning feels easy to fit in, it's easy to make time for. We know that we can start an exercise or an activity without feeling rushed. We know that we don't need to sit down at the desk and feel like, this is it, I'm glued to this seat for an hour now. We just know that it's a few minutes here and it's going to be a few minutes there, and it's all going to combine to something stronger. We know that we can start an exercise or an activity without feeling rushed or pressured that we're going to run out of time. We know that we can do that without getting too stuck or confused or overwhelmed. And we know that we can do it without getting bored. We're back to the 3 Fs: functional, flexible, and fun. And if you were to take a look at your language habits that do stick, that you have right now, that you've had for a while, I bet they tick all 3 of those boxes. But that on its own feels like just part of the story, just part of your language learning, because the default assumption is that more equals better, that you need to sit down, be attached to that stool for an hour and write that long essay. We think that more time spent on the thing that we want to get better at, writing or speaking, will yield better results. Of course, won't it? It is absolutely possible to overstudy. And with modern communication shaping the way that we interact, our attention spans, and how we choose to consume, the idea of microlearning and nano-learning even becomes really significant. What this means for us as language learners, first of all, is that we need to adjust our idea of what counts. If all you have time for one day is Duolingo, or whatever current language habit you have that sticks, that is easy, that is fine. It counts. If you have time to do more little pockets of microlearning throughout the day, also fine. That counts too. Your writing practice no longer needs to be an essay, and your speaking practice no longer needs to be an hour staring at a screen in an online lesson. Congratulations, your language learning just got flexible. The next question is, what do you do with that flexibility, with that time, to make it functional and fun? We'll start with functional. So the key is to recognize the compounding benefits of microlearning. Because sure, you're unlikely to remember 5 new words after just one app session. That's not the goal. But when you revisit them a few times in the rest of the week, then yeah, they're going to begin to stick. And rather than try and bunch all of that learning into one intense session, you've just made the chance for slower, stronger connections through microlearning instead of intense overstudy. And please don't get me wrong, intense study can work for some people some of the time. Definitely, absolutely. This is by all means not a takedown on longer study sessions. But what I'm noticing more and more from microlearning and my observations on this are the positive effects happening. And a big part of this is due to the spaced effect. Now, you might know this with your language learning knowledge already as spaced repetition. Yeah, spaced effect, spaced repetition, that's basically the same thing. The idea that we learn something here, we learn it a couple of days later and a few days later after that, and then a longer time period after that, and gradually we are more likely to remember it. And there's also something to be said for interruptions proving useful too. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect. So really, just the very nature of microlearning, we have these positive effects, the spacing effect and the Zeigarnik effect, just happening. We're not even needing to try. So by their very nature, microlearning sessions are functional. But of course, there is a big part of that. It's not just about 2 minutes doing something in a language and it's going to be as effective as 2 minutes doing something else in a language. It's all about what your focus is right now. And if your focus is, let's say, speaking, then using those microlearning sessions for speaking practice is likely to be better for you at this moment. But when the default mode is 30 minutes minimum for an online lesson, how do you fit speaking into microlearning? And the answer is prompts. And this is where the final F comes in, the fun. Because prompts, unlike the maybe kind of stale idea of prompts that you might have lingering from school, prompts are fun. Just infinitely fun. I love prompts for writing and speaking practice so much that I literally made a subscription for you so you can enjoy them just as much because they are that useful and that enjoyable. But how? How are they not like just stale old prompts that you've experienced before? Because it's all about your interpretation of it. A prompt is a springboard to just so much possibility in terms of what you can produce. You can use a prompt for a longer writing session, for a longer speaking session, absolutely. But they can work so well for microlearning if that's what you're after right now. So in Promptly, you get a brand new prompt every single week. And maybe you take that one prompt and every single day that week, you respond differently with a short answer in a little microlearning session. Alternatively, you could use that one weekly prompt to go down a different angle each day and inspire something else each day. Or maybe each day you take that same one prompt and use a different language. And what's really great about prompts for microlearning specifically is that it makes it really easy for self-review. You're no longer feeling kind of intimidated by that massive essay that you've just written. You think, I just want to forget that now, it took me ages, it's over. No, instead, you've got these short little moments that aren't going to take as long to review. Because remember, we're talking about what to do when you don't have time for anything else, when all you've got going on right now with your languages is Duolingo, but it feels like there's no time for anything more. That's when this needs to really come into play. So how do you do that review bit, and how do you do it microlearning style? I've just added a brand new workshop to the Promptly subscription on all about self-review, about how to do it for different levels, for different scenarios, all of that stuff. You're gonna love it. So it really takes everything that you get with Promptly and elevates it to a new level. There's already in there a workshop recording of how to use any prompt at any level for any language, because you absolutely can and you should. So now you know what to do with the prompt bit. This is the final missing piece of the self-review. Because sure, you could check in with a teacher, exchange partner, a fluent speaker that you know, but that's not always an easy option. And when you develop that skill of self-review and you're able to do it for yourself, you're always going to have that option. That's always going to be an easy and accessible option to you. So in Promptly, what do you get? Every single week, you get a brand new writing and speaking prompt. You get suggestions for different levels on how to use that prompt and a video walkthrough of me just to spark that final little bit of inspiration if you're feeling stuck. So it's everything you need to produce more every single week, to get more speaking practice, more writing practice. Because when you speak more, you write more, you get fluent promptly. That is all for today. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to pop them in the comments. If you want to join Promptly, you can do so at the link in the description or here above my head. And as always, have a wonderful rest of your day. Like, subscribe, all of those things that I'm supposed to say at the end of a YouTube video, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you. Bye.